On this show, well, we can also cover some, because as you were talking, I was thinking of current issues in books. But also, I guess we should talk a little about local stuff.
Absolutely.
We covered some of that, I guess, so if you guys want to move on to some.
Yeah, just the role, but do we dare bring up ebooks? How much time do we have?
I think we've got about time.
I've been running this through my brain.
So ebooks is an interesting topic. Steve has assured me that he's got interesting things, but won't talk for 10 straight minutes, and that we'll be able to get some other opinions in there. So as a publisher and as a book lover, where do you come down on ebooks? You know, are they like the greatest thing ever, worst thing ever, somewhere in between?
Well, you know, I wanted to talk about when you were talking about Iowa life fading out, because I don't really see the ebook, that tangible object in itself, other than the fact it's made out of plastic and it's not a real experience. And I know that it's possible for Kindle to probably track what you're reading, how you're reading, and stuff like that. But besides that, and the fact that an ebook and a paperback always turns on, and it's easy to read, and it's portable, other than those obvious things, I don't have much of an opinion about ebooks. But the thing that bugs me is like an EBook Society, or the way people live. Because I heard about someone the other day going into an independent bookstore, scanning the cover into their handheld device, finding out the cheapest place to buy the book, and then not buying it from that bookstore. And so there's some sort of e-culture that sort of bugs me more than anything. I mean, I'm prone to say, if you could have any kind of piece of cake you wanted in the world, homemade, deluxe, super thing, and you chose an ebook, in my opinion, you're choosing a Twinkie when you could have like the ultimate Cadillac of homemade cakes. Instead, you could have its luxurious hardcover with nice paper and margins, and the typefaces will be set to you based on a tradition of presentation. And so I could talk about it for a while, but I think it's more of a society thing than it is necessarily.
You see it as a
ebook
transition
itself.
from this sort of holding books as special things to sort of a processed, watered down version of what a book can be.
And I'm going to sound like the cranky old guy, of course, but like,
Well,
man,
that's
the
fine.
books used to be great. But you know, wood type used to be better before metal type.
Sure.
Do electronic books, ebooks, do those bother you as a writer or
Gosh,
as a reader?
you know, I've been thinking a lot about it. It's really been only within the last 6 weeks that I feel like I have even myself considered a portable book reader, a Kindle or a Nook, and started to grapple with. And I think I'm probably not alone, because I'm one of those late adopters of technology. I think that Steve raises a good point about culture. You know, I spent a lot of time, you know, my junior high and high school years during the week. I was mostly in Iowa City, and I think about downtown Iowa City, and I remember, you know, maybe 4 or 5 viable record shops just within a 6-block radius. And I think maybe half of those exist anymore. And so I think what people need to realize with ebook readers is that you are making a vote.
Right.
And that you are voting half of those bookstores potentially out of existence. Now, if that's a vote that you're comfortable making, then I think you should transition to ebooks without guilt and without a second thought. But if you like the diversity of bookstores that exists barely still in Iowa City, then I think it's something to reconsider.
But here's a real question. I mean, we're talking about losing bookstores and independent bookstores, and that would be a significant loss, right? I mean, the value of an
According to
independent
what
bookstore
people say they value,
is oftentimes their staff, smart people who read a lot.
Yeah, you're right.
But what about as an author, right? Don't ebooks give you this ability to circumvent people like Steve? No, like big publishing houses, and in a lot of ways democratize the knowledge that we're able to disseminate.
I think that's right. And I think that smaller publishers will eventually make their books probably available as an ebook. But again, it has to do with that. One thing that I've thought about. Think about your best friend or your parents, your grandparents. How their bookshelf is a tangible
of themselves.
a tangible, artifactual, visual reminder of what's inside of them. And one of the things, books on Kindle you can't really inherit. You can't really see at a glance what's inside someone's heart. in the same way that you pick up their iPod, at a glance, you can't determine the music that moves them. You can if you start poking around, but when are you going to have that opportunity? So, yes, I think that the democratization of the book will be aided by ebooks, but again, one of our patterns as a culture is we always go over to the next big thing, and then we consider the consequences later. So why don't we consider the consequences in advance? Is my point.
Right. I only wish. I mean, I guess it's good that everyone's talking about books. I mean, the subject of ebooks means people are actually still invigorated by the written word.
Yeah.
And I do always say, I'm not going to be the one to stop people from reading. So I guess if the only way you're going to read that book is on a Kindle or a Nook or something, I mean, of course I'd rather have you be reading. But the thing that bugs me is, like, it's not that hard to go get the new book. And it's not, I mean, you are voting with your dollars to a certain degree.
Sure.
And just the fact that bookstores are considered showrooms for Amazon, who's taking advantage of the fact that they don't have a store and they don't have to pay those upfront fees to have a store. So for people to come in or go to a book club and have the bookstore sponsor the book club, host the event, have the books for sale, but people come in with it on their Kindle for the book club is really, I mean, it's kind of insulting to them, because there's so much more to the book than, I mean, it's a patient act in and of itself is to read, and so it should take you to a different place. And I just see this, it's kind of contradictory to me to rush out and get the new ebook. I mean, it's fun to stand. I mean, I know people rush out to get the book, but there's something definitely being lost in my interpretation of it.
One thing I would say, too, that I didn't understand until probably a couple of years ago is the various discount rates that apply. And oftentimes, if a publisher knows a local bookstore, they may agree to take a book at a 20 or 30% discount, right? Whereas a trade discount, which is often what an Amazon or a Barnes & Noble would demand, is something like 50%. So again, if you want your local bookstore and your local publishers to survive, if you want them to be able to put food on the table and make a living, you should think about that.
Yeah, I agree entirely. I mean, it's hard to say you care about the small town feel of a town, or you care about the independence of Iowa City, or you like that there's all these people with diverse interests. But if you turn around and always buy from a .com all the time, you're really not living the life that you claim to believe in.
Well, sure. I think it's a fair thing to talk about independent bookstores versus buying from Amazon, and that's a fair thing. I think it's also good to think about if we're buying ebooks, this removes a lot of crappy books, right? And in some ways, making physical books more important by removing the John Grisham paperbacks and the books that you take to the beach from sort of that world of books. It encourages people to make their books more of these beautiful artifacts that feel good in the hand and have nice covers, and the artwork is lovingly done.
I agree with that. I mean, I think a tangible book is one of the most fascinating things that you can put yourself into. I mean, on the other hand, though, I know I used to say, like, the big chain stores were going to drive everyone out of business. So the fact that Borders has declared Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and sort of it's kind of took me by surprise to a certain extent, because we've all just thought, no, they're going to take over the world. They're going to do, everything's going their way. But it turns out we even have that wrong. So that has kind of thrown me for is that the phrase? Thrown a monkey wrench in it for me to a certain extent.
And then there's the other phenomena of, I think that the local Barnes & Noble and the Nobles in the Cedar Rapids, Iowa City area have been really good about displaying Iowa writers. And so sometimes our allies come where we would not expect
least
them.
expected, right?